Hi and welcome to The Light Leaders, a podcast for light workers who want more money, power and impact. I'm your host, Alex E. Lember. I believe that we are currently in the middle of a global awakening of humanity and that leveraging entrepreneurship is the fastest way to raise the consciousness of our planet. So in this podcast, I interview light workers and conscious entrepreneurs who follow their soul mission and have built a business around it. I call them light leaders, and this is the new paradigm. You will hear their stories and, more importantly, receive tools, tips, and strategies on how you can also impact more people and grow your business while following your soul mission. If you hear little nuggets you love and you'd like to share, screenshot this episode and share on your Instagram stories. Make sure to tag us at the Light Leaders Podcast and we will repost. There's a device I love and use almost every day. It's called the Healy. It sends specific frequencies to the body. It's been developed by quantum physicists from Germany, and it is the next evolution of health and well-being. It has amazing results. On top of it, it's an entrepreneurial opportunity. This is how I monetize my lifestyle, my brand, and this podcast. So if you're interested in getting this amazing device for yourself, or also in the entrepreneurial opportunity, I would love to help you. You can go to www.thelightleaders.org/Healy, Healy. Hi, and welcome to this new episode of The Light Leaders. Today, I'm with Nadine Lee. She is the founder of Tantric Alchemy, School of Awakened Arts. She is a teacher of the Tantric arts, and her school has supported hundreds of individuals heal their sexual wounds and ignite the power that swells in their connection to their sacred sexuality. Nadine, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So Nadine, what are you grateful for today?
Yeah, I'm just grateful for, I was just reflecting on that as we're doing the exercise, just the breath, like the breathing in the clean air and living in Bali, such beautiful surrounds and environment, especially, during these crazy times in the world right now. Yeah.
And so I'd like to give some context to our listener as to, first, what is your greater why, your vision for the world, but also how your business brings that vision into manifestation?
My greater why. Well, really, I just see I'm here, we're all here really, just to have this human experience to its fullest spectrum, its fullest, experiencing all colors of the rainbow. And with that, going from the darkest black to like white. So, every color in between. And yeah, I just feel I'm here to really explore the psyche, explore all parts of myself and heal all parts of self to really get to know who I truly am and then help others, who have gone through similar like trials and tribulations in their path that may resonate with like, the things that I've worked through and healed and overcome and pass that on, so to uplift others through, my explorations and adventures. Yeah.
And so how's your...
And so like that really
business?
links into my business just through, I guess like my greatest kind of struggles and wounds were around sexuality and that, experiencing sexual abuse at such a young age and all the things that came with that and really, working through that over the years and then helping others overcome that and really find their power in that journey, of like feeling disempowered to full empowerment. So that's really the why behind my business. And, you know, I really just truly believe that when we connect to our sacred sexuality, our sexuality is like, it's that life force energy, and it's what we want to ignite through all the practices, through like Tantra, yoga, all these practices, ancient practices, are really wanting to connect us to that life force energy and awaken that and let it flow freely through our body so we can live our fullest, you know, potential, creative potential, ultimately being that creator, creatrix.
And we'll definitely dive into that. Just to be more specific on the business, what do you offer? Coaching, online courses?
Yeah, I offer online courses and live mentorships, and also one-on-one mentorships, so group and one-on-one mentorships, as well as trainings for women to basically teach what I've been teaching for the past decade. So, you know, feminine embodiment practices, the feminine tantric arts, shadow work, inner child work, to really like, empower women to find their unique flavor in healing, like the healing arts, specifically to do with like the feminine healing arts. So that's really exciting. And, you know, because of the whole COVID situation, we had to postpone the training in 2020. We had the first one in 2019. So I'm hoping that we can do it again in person this year. Fingers crossed. But until then, I'm just offering the online, programs.
And so I'm excited to have you in the chair, because you both have that knowledge about tantric arts, about sacred sexuality, feminine embodiment, and also you have created a very successful business around it, and we'll explore two sides of this. But I like to get the listener to know a little bit about you without getting too into details, but especially to know first, so you talked about sexual abuse. I don't know if it's something you want to expand on, but first, why you connected with that mission, and also aha moment maybe you had that made you want to pursue it professionally and become an entrepreneur in that passion.
Yeah, well, I mean, I never really wanted to go down this path. I was actually rejecting it for many years. You know, I started out, so one of the kind of symptoms or like of the original trauma, the sexual trauma, was eating disorders and like deep depression and, you know, severe anxiety. So I was experiencing that in my teens and up into early 20s. And I started out healing, you know, the body image side of things and the eating disorder. And so I really, you know, went down that path. Like I studied nutrition, became a nutritionist, and I just wanted to help women with body image issues. And then, like, you know, the universe was just like kind of delivering me all these Tantra teachers and sacred sexuality teachers. And I ended up, you know, in a relationship with a couple of them, like over my early 20s, and then working on their retreats, and many other sacred sexuality teachers and Tantra teachers' retreats, like catering their retreats. So I was like the food girl, you know, like providing the food and the nourishment. And I was like, you know, they would invite me to come into the sessions, and I was like, no, I just want to provide the food. Like, I'm not interested in, like, it's kind of a bit weird what you're doing, you know? Like, I was just like, I'll just stay in the kitchen, you know? And so I was really, just denying that. It was like it was a lot of fear, actually. And, you know, my nature, I tend to move towards the fear and the fire, like that curiosity. It's like that repulsion, but then also that like, like there's something there, and I'm always like up for, you know, diving into that. So I eventually kind of surrendered to what was naturally happening and started, healing part of my own core wounds around my sexuality. And that just unlocked a whole nother dimension of my own inner healing. And then that flowed into my clients, because a lot of these women were coming to me with body image issues. And, you know, we just get on the topic of sexuality, and 9 out of 10 of these women had sexual abuse or some form of, you know, something to do with their sexuality as a child. So I was like, okay, there's something in this. And I just kept obviously doing my own inner work around it. And then, when I was that kind of lasted for a few years, like 4 years maybe. And then I was in a really explorative phase. I was living in ashrams in India, tantric ashrams, doing the whole, just full India exploration thing, going off grid and just devoting to the studies, the inner studies and esoteric studies as well. And when I was in India at this one tantric ashram, I started to actually not learn things from the teachings. It was like my body started teaching me things, and teaching me how to really heal this core wound was to reconnect to my body, specifically my womb as a woman. And that's where my power would be like reignited and regained and just like healed fully. So I'd done a lot of like the conceptual stuff and, the NLP and like all the like mindset stuff, but I hadn't fully gone into the body yet. And it was through my menstruation cycle that I actually started to, my body was teaching me like, this is where your power lies and this is what you've got to reconnect to. And I just started kind of letting my body and my intuition lead this process. So it wasn't like anyone was teaching me. It was literally my body was teaching me. And and that just kind of took me down this niche almost of like menstruation and womb wellness for myself. And so I went on a deep dive into that. And with that was like, a deeper dive into the unconscious. So the womb is that gateway of like the unconscious mind and that portal of death and rebirth. It's like where we come from, and it has that capacity to shed and die each month. So I was really like exploring just all these like fascinating things that were being presented to me through my body, and I just started teaching eventually what I was experiencing around working with your menstrual cycle and like the esoteric, like witchy kind of side of it, and then just like the grounded side of it, like how to really live in alignment as a woman with nature and become fully in your body, in that creative center, getting out of the head and coming fully deeply into the body, which is the power that we have as women, is like being fully embodied, bringing these esoteric concepts into the physical world. Like we literally bring a child from the ethers, with a man obviously as well, like into reality. And so we can bring any concept into reality and create our reality from that kind of womb consciousness. So so I went on kind of teaching that, and that was kind of like my niche almost. I was like kind of known as like the weird period girl that would paint her face with blood and and this was like a few years ago, so not many people were doing that sort of thing back then. So then like now a lot of women are doing it, which is awesome. But now these days I'm kind of more interested in working with the polarities, like in a harmony of the masculine and feminine and inner child work, and how that like relates to our business and to our relationships, and how we just relate with the world from those two harmonies being imbalanced. And so that's it's like kind of a shortened version of like a very long story.
Nice, and we'll definitely dive into that, because that's an angle that's going to interest a lot our listener, especially how you use it for creativity, business. Before that, I'd love to ask you, I would assume your clients would be mainly from Western world, and I would assume that there's a lot of disconnection for women from their womb. Is that the case, and why?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of my clients are Western for sure. And I think it's really just a case of, when you're living in the head and the upper chakras solely from that space, you're not invited into feeling, essentially, because like feeling can be painful. And so there's a fear around that. It's like, oh, that means I have to actually feel like that intensity that I couldn't process when I was a child, So that feminine path is really it's really about feeling and not being afraid of feelings, you know, and having tools to alchemize the feelings as just energy in motion, not identifying with the emotion as and going on a downward spiral spin. You know, this is that like art of like emotional alchemy, but like using that like as gateway into your unconscious and a gateway into your creativity, essentially, because it's like from that like feeling that feeling, you know, you can unlock a part of like your system, your energetic system that creates spaciousness for a new, like a clear life force energy to flow through, which is that creative energy, the kundalini, like the sexual energy to move through your body.
And Western society doesn't really educate us towards that way.
Yeah, like the whole society is just set up for numbing. It's like, how much can we distract ourselves from ever being with ourselves? It's like social media, TV, relationships, sex, like anything just to like avoid feeling and feeling what's actually there. Because when you actually feel those feelings, like it gives you access to knowledge like beyond, you know, it gives you deeper access to intuition. I really believe that, because it's like, wait, I feel something's off. Like I don't know logically what this is, but like I can feel it, you know. And so when you can operate from that realm, you're empowered. You're living from your being, like your center, your core center. You're not following like you just from the mind, like, oh, that thing over there told me to do this. I read this in the news. You know, my politicians told me to do this. You're just living from your mind and not actually from a deeper embodied space. And that's the difference between knowledge and then like wisdom, and then like gnosis, like embodied wisdom. It's like, it's that taking a concept but like actually knowing it in your body, you know, and there's a difference between that. And I think being willing to go into the body allows you to have those experiences of, oh, okay, now I get that like on a cellular level, not just like a concept, like, you know. And you see that it's like concepts like, you know, you can like live in the in the spiritual concepts, and then you get into a relationship or a, I don't know, situation with someone, and you're just like still angry and you're still like want to like beat the shit out of them. And it's like, you know, like that's where there's like, there could be a disconnect of.
Yeah, when I think I'm enlightened, I usually enter an intimate relationship and it humbles me a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where like, it's because it's tapping into those core wounds, like the relational wounds, you know, like our inner child and what we experienced as a child and couldn't feel then. And so when we're in relationship with someone and that sexual energy starts to come through, that is pure fire energy that's going to just burn through anything in your chakra system that needs to be burnt. And it's going to rub up against, you know, that feeling you couldn't feel when you were maybe like 5 years old. You couldn't express that thing to your mom and your girlfriend's reminding you of your mom. Or, you know, so it's like, this is the power. And I think we can work with it, you know, and that's why the tantric path is really a relational path. It's like, you know, learning how to evolve through our relationships to other people, because it's all well and good to feel enlightened sitting in a cave, but then it's like, get out of your cave and see how you go in like the real world. And I know that like for sure, like I was on that path when I was living in the ashrams, very like bypassed, and just felt I was like, I'd made it to the enlightenment ladder. And then I went, got in a relationship. And I wasn't so enlightened after all. So it's like beautiful. I love that, because it's like embracing like the human, you know, like we're here as a human, like having a human experience. So I like that, relationships and business as like a gateway to really embody the concepts, the spiritual concepts. Yeah.
It's a good reality check, and I find it a little bit the same with business actually. So there's often a correlation there, because it's very worldly things that can show you where you're at. It's like if you think you have peace of mind and then you start trading cryptos, it can reveal a lot too. You talked quite a bit about already, and that's going to be really interesting, because our listeners, that's the whole focus of this podcast, how we can be light workers, how we can be people who are connected spiritually, who are conscious, and at the same time be in the world, be active, creating here.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested in how that connection for you with your womb, and you said helped you with your intuition too. So how that helps you create your business.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything for me. Like, it's how I run my business, is from a deep connection to my body and my intuition. So how I kind of framework it and like actually teach that is for women to work with their menstrual cycle. So really riding the waves of yin and yang. So it's like, you know, the corporate system is purely based in yang. It's like you go to work every day, 9 to 5, flatline. Like male hormones are more actually flatline. So, you know, you can operate actually in that way, like constantly active yang. But female hormones are actually like, you know, like a bell curve in the month. So we actually have a deep yin state when we're bleeding and then a full yang state when we're ovulating. So what I really, kind of the basis of it is like when I'm in that yin state, in the bleeding phase, menstruation, that's when I'm really tapping into that mystical realm and like going deep into the yin, into the beingness, into the meditation, into like my cave, you know, like literally for 1 or 2 days, just really deeply listening to, you know, my inner guidance, and then listening to like the universal wisdom that wants to come through. And it's really like every month, like non-negotiable, that's the time where I'm receiving downloads, receiving like really what direction my business wants to take, how can I best serve, like what excites me and what wants to actually birth through me, because I'm just, you know, a channel for what wants to birth into this physical plane, you know. Just like you're a channel as like birthing a child, you know, a woman is literally the bridge between the spirit world and this physical world. So it's the same concept of taking and receiving a concept from, you know, source, divine, whatever you want to call it, a place beyond that is like, it wants to come through someone. Like there's literally like all these ideas that want to birth through and come into this physical plane. And it's really, I believe it comes through those who are most open and receptive. And to be open and receptive, you've got to listen and be quiet and have that stillness practice. And when women are bleeding, they're actually so receptive, like the auric fields expand to 10 times what they normally are. So you're even more receptive than the average day. So really working with that yin phase is really powerful. That's when I receive everything that wants to come through for the month ahead. And then, you know, I work with the cycle, like the hormonal fluctuations. And when I reach that ovulation phase, like that's when, you know, all the hormones are at their peak, and all women are most yang, and they're most like ready to action things and go for it and be in that like, you know, hustle mode, like is that time. So that's when I'll really action whatever came through in that yin phase. So anything that's any inspirations, downloads, that's when I'll be in the action mode. So it's like, and that's how I've operated for 10 years and built like, yeah, like a, you know, my empire. I don't hustle. I don't like force or chase or anything like that. And it's very balanced.
So would you say the feminine way is more to have those cycles of yin and yang, and the masculine way is that more constant?
Yeah, but I feel like, you know, men also tap into the yin as well. It's like, but just biologically, there's not like a full like bell curve going on. It's like more flat line. And I think maybe it's to do with, you know, like in tribes, like being able to hunt like for the month for the tribe, and the women are more making the babies, you know, on that biological level. But, you know, for men as well, like bringing these principles in, it's like, yeah, creating like a practice that allows you to have, time to listen and receive, and not always just be consumed and in action mode. It's like, you know, if you look at like a lion, it's like or like really any animal, like they, you know, I love that, like lions specifically.
Lion's cooler.
Yeah, like
Let's keep the lion.
like you know, they're just kind of chilling all day. Like they're preserving their energy. Like they're not like constantly out hunting. They're not wasting their energy on things that don't matter. But then when it's time to hunt and kill like a thing, they're going to go for it. So I think that's the thing. And I see that a lot with men and women. It's like just the nervous systems are so on overdrive. It's like constantly doing. And it's like, no, like look at nature. Like there's seasons, like animals take rest. Like we also need that time to go in and then know when to action, like in, you know, so it's balancing out those polarities.
I can feel as a man, I also have my cycles. They're obviously less obvious than moon cycles, but it's more feeling. So
Yeah.
But I can definitely feel there's some of it that the men who listen can also take from what you share, mainly to women.
Yeah, I think it's also, you know, for women who don't bleed and for men, it's like it's working with the moon, like the lunar cycles. So full moon is when, you know, everything's illuminated. That's more that like yang energy. And then the new moon is like when it's more dark and you're going more yin. So if you work with like the moon cycles, you know, that taps you into that yin energy, whereas the sun is the solar energy. You know, it's always shining.
Okay. So what if you're a woman but you have your moon periods during the full moon?
Yeah, I mean, like it's not like strict to that. I'm just using that as an example if you don't have a period and if you're a man to work with like the rhythms, you know, and the seasons, you know, maybe winter, you're just more going into your hibernation, like receiving, and then, you know, we don't really even have seasons here in Bali.
Yeah,
you know?
harder to do in Bali.
Yeah.
You talked about polarities and playing with polarities. That's something you do in building your business, using your feminine and your masculine energy?
Yeah. So, yeah, it's that. It's really like working with the cycle, the natural like bodily cycle that's happening. And just day to day, it's like, you know, structuring my day where it's like allows for a balance in yin and yang. So for me, what works is like really in the morning, I feel most active and most like kind of in the intellectual space, so I can really get a lot of things done in that time. And then, you know, in the afternoons, it's more like that's when I want to be inspired by life and be more in my play and like feminine and in the juiciness, and the two just like work together, because the more feminine and like tapped into that juiciness and inspiration, like that fuels into my action, and then the action like creates that feeling of, you know, like security and safety for my inner feminine. So it's like these two, you know, I have a conversation with them every day. It's like, what does my inner masculine need from my feminine? What does my feminine need from my masculine? And just like see where they're at. Maybe like, you know, I've been in the masculine energy for too long, and it's like the feminine is just like, oh, we just need to have a break, you know, like this, it's too much. And I actually feel it in my body. Like my body actually starts to hurt if I'm pushing too hard in masculine, which is, it's not often, but sometimes, you know, like life happens and there's lots of things scheduled. I try not to, because that spaciousness is really essential, like really essential for a creative, you know, like we're all creators, but like in this realm, it's like you need that spaciousness, because that's when you like have the exhale, and it's like, you know, like just can receive and be inspired. Yeah.
Do you have some techniques you want to share also, maybe that would help balancing this masculine and feminine routines?
I mean, it's really just getting to know those polarities within you. So like the contrasexual self. So like for me as a woman, getting to understand my inner masculine polarity, like who is he and what does he like to do? Like what does he express? Like, you know, and you know, I've been on a journey with that, and it's just really following the curiosity. So, you know, when I was maybe like 4 years ago, I started consciously working with exploring him, And yeah, it was really weird. Like I was into like all these random things. Like I wanted to watch action movies, and like I wanted to ride a really like fast bike, and like I loved like sexy cars. And I was like, whoa, this feels like a very masculine, because I was consciously activating it. So I was like just allowing, you know, like my curiosity and for him to have an expression. And, you know, and now it's like things are a bit different, you know. Yeah, what I've kind of been working with lately is like being more in the body and feeling that masculine energy within my body. So like more like physical training and like martial arts even. I've just started doing that, and like, yeah, it just feels like it activates like a masculine energy within me. It's like
bench press.
Not bench pressing, not that extreme, but like, you know, like going to the gym again. You know, I used to be just all the yoga and
some
just
creatine protein shake and a few bench press. I can see you at the gym, Nadine.
just rock up on my Harley Davidson, like chugging down a protein shake. Yeah. Yeah, so that's like really, you know, how I like explore it. I guess just like in life, you know, it's like exploring. And like for men, it's the same. It's like, you know, you've seen it in Ubud, like.
Yeah, like a little dance.
Yeah, like expressing the dance and like
even
being
self-pleasuring, doing an hour with music. And
flower baths and like 10-hour massages, like, you know, so there's ways like men can explore it, and there's different spectrums of like exploring the feminine for a man and the masculine for a woman. So, you know, it's like I could be exploring my masculine now, but he, you know, he might be need to grow up a bit, you know, because if I've never explored him, he's probably like, when I first started exploring him, you know, back a few years ago, it was like, he was pretty young. He was like a teenager. He was pretty immature. And so it was like growing him up, evolving him. And that helped with my business, you know, because like that immature masculine side of me was like goal orientated, would get pissed off if like I didn't reach a target, you know, it would affect my self-esteem, my ego. You know, I'm sure you can relate to that as a guy. And fear of failure, like all these things. I was like, wow, this is like my masculine really running. And so, you know, to mature him like into more, it's like I've been consciously working on that. Like how do I, you know, have things like more discipline, more patience, and more like, yeah, like the slow burn, not just like a bull out of a gate, you know, in my business, like work on things and have patience with things and take your time and see the value in like in that, you know, not just like rushing everything. So that's been a huge thing that's influenced my business, bringing in that masculine quality. And also having them, because when my immature masculine was running the show, it wasn't in harmony with my feminine. Like he would just literally be like, get out of the way, like we don't have time for emotion, we need to get shit done. And I'm sure you've probably experienced that in relationships. If a woman's like really emotional, it's like, fuck, like we have to do stuff, you know? And maybe with yourself, you know, when you're emotional, it's like it can drag things down a bit. But like in that way of being, it actually traumatizes the feminine inside of me. And if you're relating to a woman, it re-traumatizes her and makes her feel really like unseen and suppressed and like rejected. And so she's just going to be like, well, fuck you. And like, they're not going to be in harmony, you know, so they're not in harmony. So when that like kind of more evolved masculine can come in, it's like, okay, like you're having a process, like you're feeling emotion, we're going to hold space for it, but we need to, you know, just, there are things that need to be done. You know, it's just like a different dialogue, but I'm here for you. I'm holding space as long as you need to like express. And that usually when the feminine is met by that, it alchemizes quicker, the emotion, because all the feminine, that emotion wants to just feel seen and witnessed. And when it does, then it can like shift.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's like, that's wrong, that is annoying, and it's really cramping my work day, then the feminine's going to just get more and more like aggravated, and more like emotional fires.
Yeah, I haven't had a lot of success with that.
Yeah. So this is like, and it starts within you, like within like, you know, as a man, like really getting to know your feminine and like the tender parts, because like, yeah, we all have that. We all have things that, yeah.
what I find really interesting is you talk about exploring your inner masculine and your inner feminine. And at some level, I find it very attractive to myself be whole and be the feminine and the masculine. And then you can read authors like David Deda. They definitely talk about cultivating the inner masculine and feminine, and they have a lot of nuance, but they also talk about that desire, let's say when you're a woman, to be with a man that will allow you to be more in your feminine, because even though you have an inner masculine and an inner feminine, probably in the majority of cases, you as a woman, you have a higher feminine part, and that's a bit more what you want.
Yeah.
So I'm asking you, because I'm asking myself also, is your exploration towards more towards being a whole yourself and exploring your inner masculine in a way that you feel whole? Or do you still feel like it's nice to have, and that can be an intimate partner in a relationship or a partner in a business, to have someone that complements you like this? Yes, you have that inner masculine, but you also have more space to spend more time with your feminine.
Yeah, I think it's really what you want ultimately from partnership. But like when it comes to, I've been talking about business examples and like that, but when it comes to relationship, it's like, yeah, of course, like I want to be in my feminine polarity. I'm a woman, and I want like a man to be more in that masculine, like, but also
that can create a bit of neediness though.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. It's like you don't want it to be so polarized where it's like a woman's just feminine and a man's just masculine, because what happens is over time, usually around like the 18 months mark after the honeymoon period, the polarities start to shift and you start to explore your contrasexual self. Like there starts to come an alchemy. So then the feminine starts to feel like she's exploring more of that masculine energy because she's been relating with a man, and then he can start to feel more of his feminine. So if she doesn't have a masculine energy, she can't hold this feminine side of a man, and so then he doesn't feel safe, and then his feminine's probably really immature, so it's going to like project all this stuff onto her and like throw tantrums just like a young girl would. So this is usually what happens. And I think just in general, it's like, I think it's good to have that, goal of inner union. And then when you're vibrating on that frequency, then you can meet others who are in that as well. And it's not about like so much, I'm the masculine, I'm the feminine, you're the masculine. It's just more dancing. It's dancing with like, I'm a woman, I'm having a female experience. So that's my predominant polarity. Like, most of the time, like that's my stronger polarity, and yours is like masculine. But then if we're in a relationship, it's like you can dance with that. So maybe like one occasion requires me to be more in a masculine energy and you might need to be in the feminine, and then it switches, so it's like you have this like fluidity of it's the same as intuition, like, so I think they talked about it in the Celestine Prophecy, that book. It's like the girl is so scared of losing her, getting like dominated by this man. And he explains to her, like, it's not about me having the power over you all the time or me being dominant and in control all the time. It's like whoever at any given point of time has the strongest intuition leads. So that could be me, it could be you, like, and it just balances out. And I think to have that kind of dynamic, you really need to cultivate both of those within yourself, like first. And the irony is, like, the more as a woman you develop your inner masculine, they talk about this in like, the inner animus and anima, psychology. The more you develop that, the unconscious masculine as a woman, you actually can be more in your feminine.
What is it, the animus and the anima?
Like anima and animus is your inner masculine and inner feminine. Okay. So animus is like the inner male in a woman, and then the anima is the inner female in a man. And it's like, that's a part of the unconscious. So the more you can unlock that and really get in touch with that side of yourself, the more you can balance out into your other polarity, So, and the same with men, like the more you can evolve your inner woman, that feminine energy, then the more you can actually feel rested in your healthy masculine energy, you know? So, and that's what I've experienced myself, like, because when I didn't have a masculine energy, I was looking outside of myself for a man to protect me and provide and like save me, you know? And so it was very disempowering. And so when I felt and I would relate from a very immature feminine space. So when I like cultivated that inner masculine, I was like, okay, like he's here. He's not going to be like, you know, pushing away the guys, but it's like, I can trust myself and I can, you know, stand in my truth, in my mature feminine.
I appreciate to have a man that's more in his masculine, but I don't really need you so much because my inner masculine is also developed.
Yeah, and it's because you don't externalize that onto the person, because then once I like project, you are everything masculine to me, then it's like you're playing a role and feeling certain criteria, and I have expectations of how you're supposed to be, you know? And so that's really where the issues arise. And, you know, I'm still working through this stuff. I'm not saying like I'm there fully, but like I know this is where I want to go and what I'm really like cultivating. And hope others, we can all kind of like work on these parts of ourselves.
Nice.
Yeah.
And to go back into the business also, do you have like, I mean, the spiritual, a bit maybe woo business style, do you have like some ritual that can seem maybe funny or weird, but that you feel are super helpful to manifest?
I mean, sex magic's the best ritual. And, you know, you can do that with a partner or you can do it alone. So basically it's just like cultivating your sexual energy, really like activating it, moving it through your body and aligning that with like a clear intention and a desired feeling of like what you want to feel if that were to come to fruition, you know? And so, yeah, that's really powerful.
And so sex magic, does the man ejaculate and instead of creating the intention of creating a baby is to create a project?
Yeah, like you can work with the elixirs, but it's more like advanced. I wouldn't like suggest that to just like a one night stand kind of thing. Like this is like for couples who are deeply, you know, connected and doing this work together.
Even
really
for
powerful.
solo practice.
Pardon?
Even for personal practice.
Yeah. That's the thing for men as well. Like, you know, using that, instead of just like dumping it in the like tissue and down the toilet, it's like plant that seed, like literally creative seed of manifestation into the earth and like, you know, create something with it.
I mean, if we can make babies with it, it's
exactly.
probably powerful things we can do.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sex magic, any other one?
Yeah, really just staying like aligned is really like my highest thing. Like how can I just stay clear energy, and that's like daily practices. So meditating and yoga. Yeah.
You talked about feminine leadership, and I mean, we live in quite a masculine world, that old, more Piscean world, and now there are some talks about the world now getting rebalanced between the masculine and the feminine. How do you see the evolution of feminine leadership in that more Aquarian age, in the new earth? How does it look like?
Yeah, well, I think it's like, you know, it's really, it's not about like, okay, men have been leading this world, now all women have to lead it. It's like, it's just reviving the feminine qualities within women and men, because we've all been like living primarily in masculine polarity for many years. And so it's like bringing in these qualities of feminine energy, and that being like a leadership kind of foundation. So things like, you know, not like a pyramid structure, it's more like circular and more like co-creation, not like just a dictator, you know, more allowing of spaciousness, you know, so that whole model of like 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, like that doesn't really work with like the feminine principles of listening and honoring like your natural rhythms, like, you know, all these things. So yeah, it's reviving the feminine principle, and if that's in a man body that's leading, but
I
if
love
it's
how
a
you
woman,
present it, because our inner feminine as man is also hurting from that.
yeah, and like I know that for a fact. Like so many men are just like, a lot of them come here to Bali. It's like they've come from that world, and then they're like so polarized in their yang, in the masculine from corporate or whatever they were doing. And they come here, and it's like, because when you're so polarized, it's like you have to almost go to the extreme of the other side of the polarity. So that's why you see all these dudes in spiritual communities like very flowy and like just like whimsical and like doing the thing, and it's not a bad thing. It's like they just need to balance out whatever's going on. And same for women. A lot of women can come from that world as well. And they're like, oh, finally I get to just like have spaciousness and relax a bit. And then eventually what happens is you come back to the middle point, So that's the thing. If you're so polarized in one side, you got to be prepared eventually to go the other side, and then you come back to the balance.
And again, same with business. You'll have a lot of people. So you'll have people in Bali, the men very in the masculine, and then they'll come here and be more in the feminine. Maybe then, at least for me, I felt a bit ungrounded then in the flow, and I needed a bit more of that structure. So finding that middle point.
Yeah.
And same in business, you'd have maybe people from the corporate world leaving everything and living in an ashram for a few months, and then feel like, okay, I still want to work, but also allow more spaciousness.
Yeah, it's all about like we're always trying to come back to balance, like always. So we'll seek out experiences and things that will like help us return to inner harmony. Yeah.
Working more with intuition also, I guess, is often what we see as a more feminine strength that we can integrate and can be useful for business.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I think when you enter this realm of like, like light leadership or, this, what we're talking about, doing these things, it's like that old way of business, of like operating purely from the mind, it kind of just doesn't work anymore. And you'll know that it's not working when you feel, this is for everyone, men and women, when you feel that it's like forced, it's not flowing, it feels like grinding, it's just like, it feels just clunky and crunchy, So that's an indication that you're trying to play God and like dictate everything, and your ego's in the way a bit, there's like this, you're not listening to what's actually wanting to be presented. And so when you can kind of like, okay, catch that and be like, okay, my body, the energy is telling me to just hold back a bit. Maybe I just a few things need to click in place. Maybe I need to just go away for a bit, breathe. Maybe some new inspiration will come through, or maybe someone else will connect to you that will be a missing piece of the puzzle. And then a few days later, boom, like it's flowing again. And that when it's like things are just flowing again, it's like that's when you're living in harmony with the natural flow of the universe, essentially. And you're not like in the hustle mode, because that's when we're not in balance.
You have been reading a lot Osho in the past 2 years. Is it an author you appreciate?
Yeah, I love I love everything about him, just the rebellious, wild Scorpio nature. Yeah. And just like how advanced he was for those times. Like, wow.
Nice.
So powerful.
I love him too, so
yeah.
definitely recommend. We're touching the end of this podcast. Thank you so much. How can people follow you, and what's next for you, Nadine?
You can find me at tantric.alchemy on Instagram, and my website's tantricalchemy.net. And what is next is I'm launching actually a men's sexuality course with another sister. We're creating that to be starting in March. It's called Masculine Eros.
Teaching men to be good lovers?
Yeah, and how to really from the feminine's perspective, like relate to the feminine, heal some of those like core wounds around the feminine, the mother specifically, and then how to start to move that erotic energy and use that as like fuel for their creation, and really consciously work with that energy and with the reflection of desire and how to like not get lost in the lust and the desire, but actually like use that as like fuel for creativity, you know, and like bring the energy within themselves. And, you know, so we're going to be teaching tantric practices of like, you know, moving the energy, circulating it through your body, clearing out the blockages, all the things. So that's exciting. And then, I've got a women's course coming up after that, just teaching, you know, the feminine tantric arts. So that's a group mentorship. It's probably going to be called Sex Priestess. It hasn't fully landed yet, but I think that's what it's going to be called. And that's just, really helping women heal any sexual trauma and like awaken that connection to, you know, like our sexuality being a gateway into our spiritual essence and how to really work with that potency as a creatrix. Yeah.
Have you read the Magdalene manuscript?
Yeah.
Do you like it?
Yeah, I love that book. It's really powerful.
Interesting one. It opened my mind to that priesthood part on. Anyway, people can look into that too. Thank you so much, Nadine, for talking about these important topics and being a pioneer in it and having the courage to show up and be a true light leader. Thank you.
Thanks.
And thank you to the listener. Do you have a last word for our listener?
No, I feel pretty good, pretty complete. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me, and I hope to see whoever resonates with this in the online and physical realms someday.
Yeah, let us know, guys. Thank you, Nadine. Thank you for taking some of your precious time to listen to this podcast. If you stayed until the end, I assume it was insightful. If you like this podcast, please share with friends. Remember that if you tag us in your Instagram story at the Light Leaders Podcast, we will repost. Tell us what you've learned. You can also leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Now, if you think I can help you grow your soul mission business, you can register for a free 15-minute coaching call with me. Go to www.thelightleaders.org/free call. Thank you again, and let's co-create the conscious new earth together.